one of the person who really convinced them and who understood the struggle women were fighting at that time was Amica Cabral. Because Cabral himself, he used to advocate fighting against the Portuguese colonization was the small fight. The big fight is fighting against these traditional socio-cultural practices that kept women as second class. You see, that's why for Cabral, it was extremely important to make sure, right, through the period of time they're fighting against the colonial system, they have also to fight against all these socio-traditional beliefs that make a woman a second-class citizen. They have to fight to grant women the same political rights, but also the same socio-cultural rights as any other man, right, during those period of time. And sadly, what's going to happen is Cabral was assassinated before the end of the war. He was assassinated on January 20, 1973, and Guinea Bissau became completely independent on September 10, 1974. Talking to these women, female fighters, what they said, the way they caricature all that is like, during Cabral promised them, after the war, men and women will share the pie. But what happened with the passing of Cabral after the war, men did not share the pie with the women. They just gave a slice of the pie to the women. You see, meaning, sadly, everything go back to how it used to be in terms of social and cultural interaction between men and women. And the consequences are women being pushed back also to becoming kind of like second-class citizens, in which they are more, have to play more a role of, how you said, a figurative role, instead of the role that Cabral envisioned for them at the in the new independent Guinea-Bissau, Republic of Guinea-Bissau, they were planning to build. That's kind of like what you see happen there and how it goes.
It looked like the story Angela Davis was saying relating to the fight by the African Americans to have a more just society, you know, in that when it come up, it's usually about the argument that only the men were there fighting, you know, but nobody ever talked that, at least very few say that the women have also been there, not just supporting, but have been there fighting, just like the men were fighting, you know. It doesn't mean because you are a man, you just have to say only the men fight. No, everybody fought because, like you said, the women feel the pain too. It becomes natural that they are also in the front fighting. And if they have been in the front fighting, it is right that their story also need to be told. Don't like the men's story are being told, because no one is more, because there is no small death, there is no bigger death. Death is death. The women that died in war are just like men that died in war. So no one should be giving a better coffee. No one should be giving a better burial. All of us died in war if we happen like that. So at the end of the day, we should tell all the story. So I really find it very interesting, this project of yours, this narration of yours. And now I want to put the story to you like this. For a historian, a researcher like you, why do you think this telling this story is important for our children? Not for us now, but for our children that are coming to life 2021, because they are going to have a different kind of future. Why should we tell them this story?
We should tell the story because, like you said, in every single African struggle, African women play a key role in this struggle. You see, if you look for them in South Africa, in the case of South Africa, since the creation of the ANC, African National Congress, right? Very few years later on, you have South African women who joined the fight, and they fought in that struggle from that time all the way to the end. If you look at the case in Zimbabwe, right? A struggle for independence, right? Women participated in this struggle from the beginning to the end. They took guns, weapons, and fought. You see, you look the women in Eritrea, in many, in Algeria, in every single struggle you see on the African soil, armed struggle or not armed struggle, women play a key role in those struggles. Now, we should talk about this because it's kind of like number one, we should not let others write our history. Or even if we can let others write our history, we should also participate in writing our own history. Also, this is a way for us to know that African societies, in many African societies, women have always been playing key prominent roles, right? In the political aspect, but also in the economic aspect, in the social aspect. You see, we have some African societies in which women were the major policy makers. Then we have to bring back all those views and those history alive in order to show half of the Africans who are women, they have their part to play, but also at the same time also make African men realize they can do nothing without women, and they should allow African women to be full participant in the struggle, not in a figurative way. You see, and if we don't bring them out, nobody will know about it, right? And it's going to be a loss for our own societies, for our own communities. You see, that's why it's extremely important to show that aspect. Now, yes, in the academia world, a lot of people talk about, when people talk about war, it's very gender oriented, but we have to rewrite all those histories and show the role these female fighters play in these struggles. That's why it's extremely important for us to keep talking about that. That's why it's extremely important. By us keeping talking about that, it allowed also young African women to know they should not have any limit in terms of what they can do, right? And what role they can play.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Aliou. Now, to that, I'm going to ask the question like this: why do you think men are the ones that are more prominent in history, in African history in this case, even though in the construction of the society, like you already pointed out, it is co-created both by men and women? Why should the part of the women not be written just the way the men are being written? Because if we go back to older African history now, we see that women have played the role. Their story has to be documented. The first mask that is used in Benin, that is often used to represent African art, is the face of a woman, the mother of Anoba. If we enter into the ancient Egyptian history, we see that we have built refiguration of men and also of women. But why is it that today we are afraid to show women that they are really holding gun and really shooting, not that they are just there preparing pizza?
Now, the whole thing is like it's a matter of controlling. Because think about it. Accepting women in many African societies or in many societies in general, people compete to control wealth, compete to control power, right? Then this whole notion about women to be second-class citizens, meaning you are already eliminating half of the competitors, right? And this go back to ancient history, right? When people were trying to live, right? And finding food, right? Organizing societies, right? Some people always have a tendency to try to control other ones. And the men in many societies, and especially in centralized societies, and when we say centralized societies, we're talking about societies in which food scarcity or land scarcity is part of it, right? Then automatically it became important